Story 1. Retraining to become a gardener, garden designer, florist, or baker, and then promptly being affected by menopause. Story 2. For my mother, it was getting really into fitness. She hit 40 and immediately started training for an Ironman triathlon. She kept that up into her 60s, but unfortunately may have overdone it a bit. Her heart health is incredible, but her joints, tendons, and muscles are all damaged. Now she is one of those elderly women who basically needs a cane to get to the pool, then proceeds to outswim women half her age. Story 3. I did not get to have a childhood, so now I am finally able to have one. I buy myself toys and we watch Disney movies while we eat pizza and ice cream. I did not realize how much I needed it. My soul is so happy now. Story 4. I got a breast reduction and started lifting weights and lost 40 pounds. Now I look and feel 10 years younger. The surgery was the best gift I have ever given myself. Story 5. For me, it is getting all the tattoos my parents would not let me get when I was younger. Then, when I was old enough, I had no money. I now have money and no regrets. Story 6. I am 43 years old. I finally learned how to drive, bought my first car, and cut my hair really short with the sides shaved because I love the look. I also did it because I did not feel like covering my gray hair anymore. Now I am rocking a gray mohawk. I love it. Story 7. I am 48 years old. I lost 112 pounds, had a tummy tuck, and will be getting a neck and face lift next. I have become Pilates obsessed. I dress better, wear jewelry, and get my hair and nails done. Ironically, all of this has brought my husband and me closer, so it is a win for both of us. Story 8. I work with someone who is going through a major change. She is in her mid-40s now. We work at a software company, and she is one of the administrators. She is a mother of 3 and was slightly overweight. She had a social media account but never posted. Ever. I have worked with her for 10 years, and other than the occasional photo of her children, that was it. When she turned 40, she lost 80 pounds. Now she is a complete fitness enthusiast. She does heavy CrossFit workouts every single day. I cannot emphasize how drastic this change is for her. She has had breast augmentation, buttock augmentation, lip fillers, and full-sleeve floral tattoos. She is now a habitual cannabis user. She now posts constantly on social media, sometimes several times a day, with photos of herself like a 20-year-old influencer, including some racy, boudoir, and explicitly graphic pictures. She has deleted every female coworker and added every male coworker, some of whom do not even work in her department. It came out that she has been cheating on her husband with several men in the office as well and has no issues with damaging marriages. In her own words, "It is my time to live now." She used to be nice, but now she is a self-absorbed person. She brings up her age constantly, even in professional work and business conversations. I commend the weight loss, but she has some issues. Anytime she posts anything other than photos of her children, such as pictures of herself, there are still bikini photos emphasizing her body. I am just watching out of dislike at this point. Story 9. Around 40, I started to see the end of my life coming. It's like you are on a roller coaster going uphill, not seeing the end. Now I'm over the hill and it's only going downhill in terms of physical health, I think. But mentally, I have never been more balanced than this, and I have it figured out. I learned I am a people pleaser and started thinking my sense of what is pleasant or not is more important than that of any random stranger I come across. Because I feel like it has become a thing. I don't need solid arguments anymore. What a relief. I think some people live their whole life like this. Story 10. I know a man who is 30 years old and a salsa instructor. He is also single. He meets many women in their 40s and apparently sleeps with many of them. He says he loves his life. Story 11. My mom got really into home and garden television and improving our house. The amount of money she was spending stressed me out as a kid, but I think it was what she needed at the time. She had just lost her father, and I didn't understand the sudden drive to redecorate, but now I do. Story 12. I just flew to Las Vegas to see the Backstreet Boys live. Finally. Teenage me would never believe it. Best 40th birthday ever. Story 13. Someone asked this exact question a few weeks ago. Here is the same answer I posted in that thread. According to my therapist, many women in their 40s start questioning everything: the path they chose, the person they partnered with, and so on. You might have changed, but your partner did not, or your partner might have changed. You have spent much of your life living for others and realize it did not get you far, so you have a reckoning where you finally start living for yourself instead. You might find a way to do that within your existing life, or you might have to create a new path. I am a woman in my mid-40s going through this. My therapist is a woman in her late 40s who has emerged from it and chose to work within her existing life path. She often mentions that she has several clients in the same situation as me. There is no right answer and no right way to live life. You pick a path, learn lessons, and change the path if it becomes too painful to stay on it. Also, do not discount perimenopause hormones affecting your ability to find joy in life. Story 14. Based on these comments, it sounds like as women age, they have fewer responsibilities because their children are older and less needy. Their income is sufficient, so they feel comfortable and realize they do not owe people their time and energy. They finally get to do some things for themselves. Story 15. Art supplies. As many as I want. Definitely more than I need, but after being told no and then controlling myself, I've come to a point of, I'm getting it. I'm not even a professional artist. Story 16. I realized at 43 that I did not want to spend the rest of my life in a miserable marriage catering to a narcissist. I walked out the door, never looked back, lost 70 pounds, and I am happier now than I was when I was married to him. My only regret is that I did not get a tummy tuck while I was married and could afford it. Now I cannot afford it, but I would rather be single than stay for a tummy tuck. Story 17. I had a woman tell me her midlife crisis was following her favorite band to every show while they were on tour. I was honestly happy for her to have that cool experience. Story 18. Is it a midlife crisis? Or is it just finally having the time, money, and no concerns left, leading us to do what we want? Story 19. For me, skincare, green powder, gym, glow up, newfound fashion sense, eating disorder, group sex, sex clubs, open relationships, and plastic surgery. Story 20. I love books. My parents hated books and limited me to borrowing 2 books per week from the library. I was not allowed to spend their money on books, including pocket money or birthday money. Now, I buy all the books. In the first year I had free spending money, I was legitimately buying at least 5 books per week, sometimes averaging 10 books per week. Currently, it has slowed down, but I still buy a minimum of 2 books per week. So, books. Story 21. Cannot have a midlife crisis if most of your life has been a crisis. But seriously, I had a difficult time growing up, and my 20s and 30s were not something to be thrilled about either. As I approach 45 in a few days, life has never been better. I am in a place I never thought I would be and living the life I can finally have. I have tattoos, multicolored hair, play video games, and tend to my flowers. I have a fiancé, drink alcohol, and occasionally consume an edible. I have friends whose ages range from their 20s up to their 50s, and I shrug off any drama that tries to reach me. I believe one can only have a midlife crisis if they spend too much time looking back with regret or a fear of missing out attitude. I look back at my life not with regret but mostly with sadness. So I choose to look forward and see the potential and happiness I have managed to create for myself and can continue to create. Story 22. I decided to stay single for the rest of my life, spending time with family and friends instead of investing energy in a man. I changed jobs and adopted a dog. Those were the best choices of my life. I am much happier now than I was 10 years ago. I love my job. I love coming home to my almost adult children and my dog. I have so much fun and peace in my life now. It is wonderful. Story 23. Honestly, I'm going through it right now. I'm 37, married with a stable job, housing, and overall situation. I am a mother to 1 toddler. I quit drinking at 24 and spent most of my 20s behaving well and hyper-focused on my career. Now I'm still sober, but I just want to have fun. I lost 50 pounds and started caring more about my appearance. I want to travel, go to concerts, and do psilocybin mushrooms after a long hiatus. I want to hang out with friends and not take things too seriously. I spent $600 on Chappelle comedy show tickets last year and wore a crop top. I'm aware that I'm trying to recapture a youth I never got to live. But I'm not hurting anyone. I'm gainfully employed. My child comes first, and this too shall pass. Story 24. At my oldest and heaviest, I have started to wear crop tops. If I had known how little I could care in my 40s, I would have embraced turning 40 much earlier. Story 25. Turning 40 this year and suddenly desperately needed to buy a moped or scooter. That little scooter brings me so much joy, and I feel confident showing up in my motorcycle gear. Story 26. I am 40 years old. I did not run at all during my first 39 years. I am currently registered for 3 marathons. Story 27. I am just under 40 years old, but I recently bought a Keurig machine that makes both hot and iced coffee. I also started a Pilates membership at a local studio. My 40s are going to be amazing. Story 28. Started playing guitar. Took voice lessons. Waited for the children to turn 18. Ended a bad relationship. Lost 50 pounds. Now lead singer in 3 bands performing weekly. New happy relationship. Having a blast. Lots of new friends. Life is good. Story 29. I do what I want. Yes, I still take care of business, the house is clean, my husband is taken care of, my son is taken care of, things get done, but when I want to have me time, I do it. I want to sit in the garage and listen to Alan Parsons Project, smoke cigarettes and drink wine. I want to sit on the deck and play Southern Cross 10 times in a row and smoke weed. I do it. If my husband thinks it's weird, I don't care. I do what I want. I play air guitar and headbang to Korn. I buy toys if I want them. I don't care if they're not age appropriate. If I want a new Lego set, I'm getting it. Story 30. I'm in my 50s. The only thing I have noticed is that I want to travel much more. I feel like time is winding down, and I have many things I want to see before my legs can no longer carry me through all these amazing places. Other than that, I don't feel much different. No affairs or flirtations. No dramatic health changes, although I probably need to make some. I still drink, but my best drinking companion is my husband. I also want to see as many concerts as I can before every old rocker passes away. They are becoming fewer and more expensive. Story 31. Got divorced, sold my house, and used the profits to pay off all my debts. I downsized my life into a great little apartment in an awesome neighborhood, started traveling, and basically do whatever I want. I also got a discreet face tattoo in white ink. Story 32. Going back to college, doing better than I did the first time, and finally getting my degree. Also setting necessary boundaries with my narcissistic parents and leaving the fundamental Pentecostal religion I was raised in. I feel so much better. Story 33. Finally figured out I am a lesbian and have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I am going to therapy and actually addressing my past trauma. I am going to come out of this crisis with a beautiful life. Damn it. Story 34. My sister is 51 years old. She has been struggling for a few years. She spends time with younger people, going out to bars and restaurants several nights a week. She leaves family functions early to meet friends. She stays out until after midnight. She is married with 2 children but acts as if she is 27 and single. Story 35. My wife quit her career as a 3-dimensional graphic artist and went back to university. She now has a Doctor of Philosophy degree and is planning to be a university teacher. Story 36. I started martial arts and earned my black belt. I began to feel like I wasn't getting enough conditioning to prevent injury, so I stopped the martial arts part and continued weight lifting with the same community. Story 37. Getting in shape, tattoos, wearing all black since I was not allowed to when I was younger, enjoying being invisible to everyone else. Story 38. Got divorced, started my own business, bought a V8 Challenger, and was intimate with many men. 0 regrets. Story 39. At 46, I left a more than 15-year relationship, slept with my 26-year-old personal trainer, dated women, moved to a new town, and started wearing miniskirts. It has been interesting. Story 40. I lost my husband in an accident last year, and that seemed to trigger a midlife crisis for me once I was able to start pulling myself out of grief. The solution seems to be changing my wardrobe and becoming a Korean pop music fan. It is strange to just about anyone who knows me, but I am just grateful that I can feel joy again. Story 41. For me, it feels less like a crisis and more like a quiet shift, questioning if I am where I am supposed to be, feeling a bit lost in routines, and wondering what is still possible. Some days I just want more for myself, even if I am not sure what that looks like yet. Story 42. For me, it was a video game addiction that I have since completely overcome. I separated from my husband of 20 years due to a 10-year dead bedroom and found new love. Additionally, I stopped drinking wine and started smoking marijuana. All of this was related to escapism from a life I was no longer satisfied with. Story 43. Having a crush on someone you absolutely should not have a crush on and optimally just hiding it until it hopefully dies down. Story 44. For me, both. I think there are generally fewer benefits for women to be in a relationship than for men. What I saw in myself and in those around me was that women were done taking care of a man. Story 45. I must be the odd one out here. I am a 43-year-old female, formerly gifted. I never had the inclination to date, marry, or have children due to too much genetic and mental health baggage. I make less than $10,000 a year at a part-time laboratory position in a city where even people who make 10 times that can still struggle, so I am currently living with what remains of my birth family. I am pretty much a failure to launch. It feels like my quarter-life crisis never resolved and just evolved into a midlife existential despair. I had many different dreams of becoming some kind of creative, such as a writer, game designer, or crafter, but I figured they were impractical. I tried to play it safe in hopes of pursuing them later, but never found the stability I craved. I need to make some kind of change fast, but I am still too terrified and overwhelmed to move. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and the increasingly difficult state of my country are not helping either. Story 46. Not quite there yet, but for the past 2 years, I have been giving myself the Boy Scouts experience I never had. I am literally starting from the beginning to earn every badge. Will I finish? Who knows? Who cares? I have had so many first experiences recently and experiences I have not had since I was a child. This whole process has gotten me outside and volunteering as well. This week, I am learning some new magic tricks. Story 47. For me, not much of anything. I am too busy taking care of teenage children, my husband, aging parents, my career, and the house to think about myself. Story 48. I am 38 and pregnant with my second child, so I will still be in the labor-intensive stage of parenting in my 40s. However, I plan to get physically fit and stronger as my personal challenge. Weight training and similar exercises. My mother is in her 60s and can easily lift more than I can, and I am trying to be like her. Story 49. Divorce for hopes of better options is not always a crisis on the woman's behalf. Some men do not prioritize loving their wives. Story 50. Got a degree, changed careers, started a relationship with a man 8 years younger, and bought my first home with him. 21 years later, we are in our third home. Life is good. Story 51. What crisis? We just stopped caring about what you all think of us. It is amazing to just let that go. Story 52. Many of these comments relate to realizations and the changes that result. To me, a midlife crisis is when you reenact the "it was a phase" cringeworthy mistakes you put everyone through 2 decades earlier. Story 53. My mom went from never even touching a golf club to golf commissioner of the town in 3 years. She golfs at least twice a week, usually 3 to 4 times. As others have mentioned, my brother and I are very independent, and besides babysitting my daughter 1 day a week, we don't need her as much. She finally has the time, money, and energy to pursue whatever she wants, and she chose golf. Story 54. I'm not in my 40s yet, but I think I have hit my midlife crisis by spending money on all the things my teenage self would have wanted. Concert tickets, band t-shirts, tattoos, coloring my hair. I was a closet emo, and now I don't care about judgment from my family enough to wear black all the time because I like it. This is great. Story 55. I am not quite there yet, but I bet mine will look like getting a breast lift and large breasts installed, and then wearing clothes that would embarrass my children if I had any. Story 56. From what I have seen, there is a sudden urge to rediscover who they are outside of being a mother, wife, or employee. It could be anything from solo travel to starting a business or just changing their whole wardrobe. Story 57. Spending an ungodly amount of money on front row tickets to see the now also middle-aged boy band I obsessed over as a kid. Dyeing my hair neon colors and getting my first visible tattoo. Not so much a crisis, but finally realizing life is short. Do the thing. Story 58. Blowing up relationships that matter because you don't realize menopause is fueling your thoughts and feelings. Learning 10 new hobbies because you wake up to the realization that you don't know who you are and life is halfway over. Facing the reality that aging doesn't just happen to other people. Noticing that you are now effectively invisible because men no longer look at you. Catching your reflection in the mirror only to ruin your day because you don't look like yourself anymore and your jawline has become soft. I could continue. Story 59. Approaching 40 years old and honestly becoming very interested in procedures and wine. Very humble and honest with myself, I guess. Story 60. Decided to get into calisthenics and started to spend most of my money on traveling. 38. Single and no children with fantastic friends. Life is good. Story 61. I got into running and ran a marathon at 42. Afterwards, someone told me a marathon is the new midlife crisis. I figure it is better than a sports car or an affair. Story 62. The realization that I am halfway done has led to 3 years of crippling health anxiety. I suppose that is mine. I am in hell. Story 63. I bought a Vespa and got some Botox. My husband got a snow cone machine, a dartboard, and a popcorn machine. Our house is fun. Story 64. Got married and then had a baby at 40. Bought a house at 43, got a job with a pension, and started planning for retirement. In other words, I settled down. Story 65. Okay, sorry to interrupt here, but I thought midlife crisis was about the acute realization that you are going to die. Does it strike some philosophical nerve of any sort? Okay, I know it's a huge taboo, but it's kind of what it's all about. You are going to stop existing. Story 66. I got several new tattoos and piercings. I regret nothing. I am also growing out my curly hair so I can have a wild, witchy mane. It is halfway down my back now, and I love it. Story 67. They changed something. Their hair, job, diet, kitchen cabinets, clothing style, or marital status. Story 68. For me, it was an increase in travel. My crisis began early when a young relative died unexpectedly. I did not want to continue my life with the monotony of work, eat, and sleep. I should be saving more for retirement, but I doubt I will actually get to have one. Story 69. A lot of really tough personal growth and existential dread. I finally bought myself a rock tumbler. I also took up a hobby, rock hounding, which is cool. I have lifelong attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and never had the attention span for such things to gain any actual traction. I literally look for cool rocks for hours wading through rivers and such. Then I bring them home and scrub or tumble them. Right now, I am very busy all the time, but eventually I will make cool stands for them. The big chunks of flint are replacing my flat concrete pavers around my cherry tree. Story 70. Still waiting for my midlife crisis. But until then, chronic illness with no breath, a box full of medicine, and more medical specialists than everyone I know, including the baby boomers. Story 71. Started glucagon-like peptide 1 from an unofficial source, began weight training, removed negative people from my life, and spent time only with those I care about. Story 72. At 47, I got a 3/4 sleeve tattoo on one arm. All previous tattoos were small and hidden. At 48, I traded in my luxury sedan for a mini convertible so I could cart around. I have also become obsessive about skincare for my face and neck. Story 73. For me, it looked like buying a Jeep Wrangler and a motorcycle, so basically the same as a man in his 40s. Story 74. I started rock climbing again at age 43. I climbed in my late teens and mid-20s and was obsessed with it. I met my husband climbing and have many great climbing trip memories. After having children, it dropped in my priorities. I would think about starting it again and would climb for a bit, but nothing would stick. Now I am obsessed with it again, going to the climbing gym consistently and planning climbing trips. I am loving it and do not know why I stopped. Story 75. I really feel like I had my midlife crisis early, in my late 20s. God, I am so relaxed now. There is nothing I need to change. My message is, do not wait for your 40s. Story 76. I have lost a lot of weight and started wearing and doing things I was not allowed to do when I was a teenager. I started a home bakery business. Story 77. None of this sounds like a midlife crisis. It is simply women finally getting their lives together. Story 78. If it is anything like what my mother did, they will buy a large dog and 12 to 16 acres of land on a mountain to hike, garden, camp, and relax. Then they will change their mind and spend a couple of years building a camp from scratch. Story 79. Starting a low-quality business, such as making candles or inexpensive sculptures to sell at a local flea market, where they rarely make a profit. In my area, the trend involves middle-aged women and their young daughters buying dehydrators and dehydrating candy like Skittles, then attempting to resell it for 20 times the original price at local farmers markets. Story 80. The day I turned 40, I noticed wrinkles on my face that were not there before. I have been obsessing about them and trying all kinds of products, light therapies, and various treatments. I also frequently visit the plastic surgery forum, considering a facelift and breast lift. Story 81. I'm not doing anything absurd like getting loads of plastic surgery or cheating on my spouse. Mostly it's just I don't give a factor stuff like leaving my $200,000 plus job for one that pays half as much and has half the responsibility, or not putting on makeup every day, dumb things like that. I cut down or cut off a lot of family and friends who were just taking up space. I'm in therapy and have new hobbies. Story 82. Start dyeing your hair in vibrant colors. Say you need to find yourself. Have an affair with a coworker old enough to be your father to feel cool. And get divorced. Story 83. Not caring about people's expectations, about what others find attractive, or about people not thinking we are nice. Story 84. Become a nomad. My friend did that. She works from home, and every year she explores a different country. Bolivia, Mexico, Vietnam, Thailand. Story 85. This thread has just made me realize that my recent acquisition of loads of Star Trek merchandise is my midlife crisis. No regrets. Story 86. I heard years ago that for women, their 30s are better than their 20s, and their 40s are even better than their 30s. I think that is true. Story 87. The stereotypes tell you all you need to know about midlife crises for women in their 40s. Around this time, you start enjoying true crime on new levels. You might fall down the romantic fantasy rabbit hole. Home improvement becomes a hobby, and many paint their walls some shade of millennial green. Many bleach their hair to hide the grays and start appearing on makeup help pages on social media, asking what miracle makeup techniques people have for tired eyes, under-chin waddle, or fine lines around the eyes. You start caring for your skin and wearing skin-colored undergarments. Activewear suddenly becomes an acceptable wardrobe choice for going anywhere, except the office, where they probably wouldn't recognize you without the many layers of makeup recommended online. Perimenopause emerges. Doctors may deny it exists. You have a mission to find one who doesn't think you are just gaining weight or exaggerating your pain. You recognize sneezing for the danger that it is. You could pull a muscle, bones pop, and you might leak a little. Heavier perimenopause periods mean extra special sneezes on day 2. Sleeping in any position other than the ideal one, which is rare, results in everything hurting and feeling like you might just die. Teenagers crossing your yard begin to get on your nerves. You consider a rocking chair, shotgun, and a cold glass of whiskey for your front porch so you can remind them to get off your lawn. Story 88. I was 38 and in the heat of raising kids through COVID when I looked at my life and decided no one else was going to build me the one that I wanted, so I got to work and made it for myself. I started organizing monthly events for friends that featured all the things I wished I could do but didn't because my husband prefers to relax. We've been to ropes courses, learned glass blowing, took painting classes, played whirly ball, so many fun things, a different fun thing every month for 2.5 years now. I started a book club where we actually read the book and talk about it. I started planning elaborate road trips that included wasting so much time on the drive, like an extra hour to see the world's largest plaster bowl in Ohio, then found 3 friends to go with me. We have our 3rd annual trip in a couple of weeks. Once these things got going, my husband actually came around and participates sometimes, but they happen without regard to him. The biggest thing was realizing that my needs get to stay on the table and be part of our budget, our time, and our planning. Women are taught from birth to make themselves smaller for the good of their parents or children or literally anyone who needs them. Giving that up was a huge blessing. Story 89. Impulse divorce. I am not talking about those who take time to plan their exit carefully to protect themselves financially and understand the legal process. I am referring to the opposite, those who did not research apartment prices in their area and are shocked to learn that a $15 per hour certified nursing assistant salary does not cover a $2,000 one-bedroom apartment, the cost of legal fees, and what the division of assets actually entails. Story 90. In my wife's case, 15 years together with 4 children. She suffered from severe depression for many years and could not overcome it. She left her decent job for a minimum wage position, fell out with all her friends, started streaming on TikTok, had an online affair with another man, possibly more, began a slow breakup with me, gaslighting me to this day over it, started an actual affair with him. He is a loser, alcoholic who cannot keep a job and is about 40 years old. Constantly lies about every little thing. Tricked me out of the house under the guise of it being a break. Still going through it a year and a half later. It is horrendous to deal with and even worse to witness. Story 91. Stopped climbing the ladder. Took an initial pay cut to get 2/3 of the year off and now make double what I was making before. Travel a lot, bought real estate, live in the mountains. Midlife does not have to be a crisis. Call it a reevaluation. Story 92. I do what I want, and I do not care what people think. Yes, that fine 27-year-old is taking me on a date this weekend. I am going to enjoy every second of him as usual. Story 93. I do not know personally, but for someone I know, it meant becoming an alcoholic and cheating on their longtime boyfriend, with whom they share a child with a 25-year-old, and dating him now. She is still not happy from what I hear. Story 94. I got a mommy makeover, which included a tummy tuck and breast implants. I had always been self-conscious about my small chest, and having 2 children affected both my chest and my stomach. Story 95. Getting a job as a lunch lady at the same high school your child attends so you can be part of the community and a cool parent. But really, you just need friends. Story 96. I was forced to leave my difficult job and had to receive medical treatment because of it. I managed to start a different career. My volunteer work in theater is going well these days. I have not done anything more drastic, such as engaging in casual relationships, which is still not an option for me. Story 97. Not 40 just yet, but I bought a red convertible. It is a Bronco, technically a red convertible, and I am claiming it as my midlife crisis. Honestly, I am so happy about it. Story 98. I bought a closet full of yarn when Joann's was going out of business because I wanted to learn how to knit. I do not knit. I get frustrated every time I try to learn on YouTube, but that does not stop me from buying more yarn. Story 99. Sometimes it can feel like downsizing, sadness, rejoining the workforce if you are a stay-at-home mom, bitterness, and other unpleasant emotions that occur when you suddenly find yourself single without prior consent because your forever person suddenly took a liking to the neighbor's babysitter. Story 100. I do not care about trying to stay relevant socially or gain approval from people who are well known in our city or community, such as chefs, television presenters, influencers, and trendy business owners. I say this because I have a partner who loves to be in the loop and network within these circles. He gets a lot of pleasure from being able to name drop. It is absolutely not impressive to me and feels a bit immature. I love many things about him, but this is where we greatly differ. I only have time for people I genuinely like and do not care about your follower count. Story 101. I feel like I am experiencing the gradual version of a midlife crisis, as it has been nearly 10 years since the signs began. My husband and I are now discussing building a new life in another, slower-paced country. It feels less like an escape, which it certainly would be under current circumstances, and more like a new, less hectic phase of life for us Generation Zers who have worked hard every day of our lives. Story 102. I went out to see live music multiple times a week, made friends with people in the local music scene, and had a lot of fun. I am still friends with most of them but do not go out as much now. Story 103. My midlife crisis included losing a significant amount of weight, becoming a workout enthusiast, returning to therapy, addressing my mental health, and working on various other self-improvement projects. Story 104. I am in my 40s and have a desire to learn. I am currently working towards certifications for information technology. If it leads to a future in that role, that is great. Otherwise, just learning it is useful to me. I am also interested in math. I was just okay enough to learn algebra. Now that I am older, I recognize that I had some anxiety because it was difficult and I was too embarrassed to seek a tutor. I also buy SkinCeuticals CE ferulic without a care in the world. Story 105. The day after I dropped my stepdaughter at college, I walked into work. I ended up packing a good chunk of my things, and that was it. I never went back after 13 years. I found a new job a few months later. I received disability payments for stress and fibroid surgery while looking. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.